Hey everyone, I'm Mind, and in January 2026, Ninjago Legacy returns with 3 brand new sets. If you've been following the channel, you'll know I already have 4 reviews up on all of the sets and I've made lots of different videos around them. But in this video, I want to take another look at some of the minifigures that come in those sets and see what we could do to fix or upgrade them. I know it says fix in the title, but honestly that's just to grab people's attention. Overall, I'm incredibly happy with the Legacy minifigure lineup. There's only really like 1 or 2 minifigures that I think actually need fixing, but all the minifigures you see lined up here, these are Legacy minifigures that I identified that could have an alternate way to display them. Using parts from your own collection, you could change them up a bit to maybe make them look better, but it's really up to your own personal taste. It's just cool combinations you can do with these parts that might just improve them in your eyes if you don't want to stick with the originals. As always, if you want to see the full reviews of the sets of these minifigures come in, I'll leave a full playlist linked in the pinned comment. There you can check out my review of the Old Town, the Anniversary display, and the new Blacksmith shop set. But without further ado, let's get started. Let's take a look at each of these minifigures up close and see how perhaps you can modify them to maybe make them a little more interesting. First up is the Legacy ZX minifigure, and while I really love the Legacy ZX minifigures, this one is easily the weakest because he's just got a weird color scheme going on. You see, the original ZX had silver armor and silver on his hood, but this new version switched to using gold instead. However, he still has like the silver on his arm and on his torso, so it feels very disconnected to me and I don't think it looks the best. So let's swap back in that original silver armor. Now there's 2 different levels to this change. The first would just be to do this, give him the silver armor but keep the golden hood, and honestly even that I think looks significantly better. The gold only being on the hood does not feel nearly as out of place. And while I definitely would still prefer silver on the hood, I kinda like how this looks. It ties in much nicer to the arm and everything. This looks really great. Here's how he looks if you turn him around too, like you can see a symbol through the back. Very nice looking. But of course, if you want to take things a step further, you can swap back to the original mask as well. And obviously now you don't have that new super cool Legacy ZX mold, but still the updated torso and legs look amazing with the original mask and armor. So I think this makes for a phenomenal minifigure and a huge upgrade over the original ZX. It just feels like a more detailed version of that suit. Next up we have Cole, who also switched to using gold instead of silver like his original. Unlike Jay, I actually don't think the gold looks bad on Cole, like I think he looks perfectly fine, but still it's not accurate to the original, so let's swap it out. Here he is keeping the newer hood but adding the silver armor. Again, I think this looks better than the original, even with the gold still on the hood. I actually really like how this looks. With these 2 versions, Jay definitely still looks better between the 2, but yeah, I do not mind this at all. And then here he is fully swapped back to the original Legacy hood. Looks very good once again. The torso I feel like is still a little bit odd here because there's gold on the torso to tie into that gold armor he's supposed to have, so switching him back to silver makes the gold on the torso feel a little bit awkward. But I don't know, I think it still works in my opinion. If this was the official version of the suit, I think it would be my least favorite of the 5, but it's interesting to see the option at least. Finally, for the Legacy ZX Ninja that changed colors, we have Lloyd, and he didn't go from silver to gold, he went from gunmetal gray to gold. So here's the new Lloyd with the new mask but the gunmetal gray armor, and once again, just like Jay and Cole, I think even only switching the armor makes a huge improvement. If they were insistent on keeping gold on everything, I think this is the way I would have liked to see them do it, because this feels much closer to the original while still keeping that gold on everybody. And here he is with the original hood piece as well, which honestly looks pretty good. Again, there's like gold detailing on the torso that's not present on the original, but considering that Lloyd is associated with gold, I don't mind that at all. I actually quite like how this turned out. Now, of the 3 Legacy suits that switched colors, I do think the base Legacy Lloyd looks the best. So of these 3 I just showed, I think the only one I might be changing for my personal collection is Jay. The original Cole and Lloyd look good enough that I'm happy with them, but yeah, I definitely still wish they hadn't changed anything at all and just stuck to the original colors for the Legacy suits. And then, of course, nothing needs to be changed in terms of color scheme, but if you are going to switch the hoods and armor of the rest of your Legacy Ninja, you might want to swap these 2 as well, so that way they're all consistent. So here's the new Kai and Zane with the original hoods. This looks fine, I think. I honestly do prefer the newer ones on these outfits, but maybe it's just because I'm so used to seeing them at this point. The gold printing, though, does just have a much different shine to it. And here's the customized Legacy ZX suits all standing together. It does honestly make for a very nice lineup. Of these, though, Jay easily looks the best. That torso and legs look so good when the gold armor is not on top of them. Next up is Blacksmith Kai, and I've seen complaints that his face and hair are not screen accurate, so let's fix that. Kai's actually worn this outfit twice in the show, once was in the pilots and once was in March of the Oni, so if we want to make the March of the Oni version, it's very simple, just switch back to his movie hairpiece, and there we go, there's how he looked in that season of the show. But if you'd rather make a more accurate pilot's Kai, you could just switch back to his original faceprint and hairpiece. This faceprint was on pretty much every Kai minifigure from 2011 to 2017, and the hairpiece was on the rebooted suits, the tournament suits, and then I think also randomly thrown in a few sets after that. But here's how that head looks actually on this minifigure, and this is surreal to actually have. This is the iconic Kai from that first season of the show. It looks absolutely phenomenal. Honestly, I want both of these versions of Kai just like actively in my collection, so I think I have to find a way to get a second copy of this guy to actually be able to do that. After Kai, we have his sister Nia, and she was given a very faithful recreation of her original outfit from 2011, and it's just sort of a more detailed version of that original suit, with back printing for the first time. The one part that's like inaccurate about this figure is the face print because she uses her movie face, even though she does actually correctly have her original hairpiece. So let's bring over that face print from her original minifigure in 2011. There's how that looks, I think it's absolutely perfect. And here's her alternate face too, with the printed ninja bandana. While we're talking about Nia, let's take a look at another Legacy Nia suit. This is the new Legacy Samurai X, which is a cool standalone minifigure for people who may not have a Samurai X, but it's honestly not very accurate to the version we see in this era. The torso print is quite similar, and you can go check out my comparison video for more details on that, but the biggest difference is the armor piece. The new version has the Tournament of Sources armor in gold, which is just like a small shoulder pad and a scabbard, while the original has this big, bulky gunmetal gray armor. The other difference too is the shape of the horns. The older one just uses like the bucket handle piece, and the new one has this much more elaborate design. So let's modify this figure to have the armor and the horns from the original design. There's how that looks, and at least in terms of accuracy, this feels much more faithful to the original design. I honestly don't mind the current Legacy Samurai X because it's just another Samurai X suit, and this is still different from the original, right? We have the blue belt here, which wasn't present on that original version, but this at least makes the armor a little bit closer and it has the accurate helmet. I think this is a cool option for display, but personally, I'm probably just going to stick with the original minifigure. I do like the little bits of white detailing that you can see through the armor because that's like the one thing about Samurai X that calls back to Nia's original suit, and I think it's much more prominent here than on that original 2012 Nia minifigure, but aside from that, I think the base version probably looks better, at least for this outfit. Next up, we have the new Legacy Young Woo, who has this dark tan outfit. This is actually accurate to the colors you see in some of the backstory scenes, and I think it was the right choice for this minifigure to make him visually a bit more interesting. However, because Young Woo pretty much only appears in flashback scenes, his colors are quite inconsistent throughout the show, so there's a few different things you could change here, depending on your own interpretation of how the minifigure should look. The biggest one is switching his hairpiece from this dark tan to the regular tan, and that gives him the blonde hair color, which is how I always interpreted his hair in the show, and that matches Lloyd's hair color as well, and of course they're a part of the same family. Making that change right here, I do think the darker tan actually looks better, but this is certainly an option you have. And then the other thing you can do with him is change his outfit. Because in the show, the first time we see this guy, he's in this outfit, the black Woo suit from 2011. And there's also the 2019 Legacy version of that outfit that you could choose to use as well. So here's light tan Woo in the 2019 Legacy gray outfit, and then here he is keeping the dark tan hair in that same outfit. Then here he is with the dark tan hair in the original 2011 outfit. Of the two gray outfits, this is definitely the one I prefer because it's the one that we actually see in the show. And here he is in that same outfit with the light tan hair instead. This is definitely the most accurate Young Woo you can make that matches the one seen in those original 2011 shorts. But he does use so little of this new Legacy figure, it's literally only the face. It is a cool option to have though if you're going for 100% accuracy. The newer dark tan outfit though is a little more accurate to like the Hands of Time flashbacks though. So I think there is room for both in a collection. In a very similar vein, here is the first Spinjitzu Master minifigure, and he is mostly based off his appearance in the later Ninjago seasons. Specifically, I know like the flashbacks in Season 11, he's wearing an outfit similar to this, though a lot of it was made up here, because we've never got a good look at the front of him. In 2011, though, he wore those same black and white robes that we just saw in Woo. In fact, I believe the lore around those robes is Woo got them from his father. I think they were his father's robes originally. So you can swap those onto this minifigure, and I think this looks amazing, especially from the back where you can see the ponytail and the full dragon. That looks really, really cool. Alternatively, here's how he looks in the Legacy version of those robes from 2019. Once again, I definitely prefer the originals, but hey, if you only have the newer ones, this is an option. And finally, I don't know why anyone would want to do this, but this new minifigure is technically based off the design of the black Woo Crew training robes, because that's what he wore in the show. Again, you never really saw the front of his torso, you mostly saw the back, but you could tell that this new outfit's based off this one, so if you wanted to, you could swap them into those, but yeah, I don't really see the point of that. The official robes look a lot better. So personally, I would either stick to the official minifigure, or swap them into Woo's 2011 robes, because that's what looks the best and also is what's most accurate to the show. To finish off the Garmadon family, here's the new Legacy Lord Garmadon, and the only new thing about this guy is the face print. He's got two amazing faces, one with a smile and one with like this grimace, and there's quite a few different things you can do with this guy. If you want to make him accurate to 2011, give him his original 2011 helmet. There's how that looks with that face, and there's how it looks with the alternate face. It was pointed out to me that this version of 2-Armor Garmadon does actually appear in the show for a moment. This is how Garmadon appears in Zane's Vision in Season 1. But yeah, outside of Visions, all of his official appearances with 2 arms were with this helmet, and then he got this helmet when he had 4 arms instead. You can also use the last Legacy Garmadon minifigure to give him some leg printing, which is not accurate to 2011 Garmadon, but it is to 2012 Garmadon. But if you want to fully make this a Legacy 2012 Garmadon, you can add in that original upper torso piece. So there's how that looks with the Legacy leg printing and the upper torso piece, as well as with the alternate face. But where I think these new face prints will work the best is on Emperor Garmadon from Sons of Garmadon. So this is less upgrading a legacy figure and more using a legacy figure to upgrade another minifigure. But here's Emperor Garmadon with the smiling legacy face, and here he is with the angry legacy face, and this one especially I think fits him perfectly. Such a good expression for him that we never had before. We'll do some super quick ones, the Time Twins. Starting with the Young Krux, we actually did have a previous Young Krux minifigure, and the new version definitely has more accurate legs, but the original technically has a more accurate torso. It's a very slight thing, but you can see the original has like an angle to the red, while the new one's more symmetrical, so both him and Acronix can share the same torso. So here he is with that more accurate torso print. I really don't think this makes a difference. The original looks just fine. And then also during this time period, sometimes they wore helmets, specifically the Vermilion helmets. So there's how the new Krux looks with the Vermilion helmet and with the old torso. And then here he is with the new official torso with the helmet also attached. I still think the hair looks better, but this is definitely an option you have. Acronix really doesn't have a better torso than this, however you can also swap the helmet onto him. So there's how the new young Acronix looks with the helmet attached, and here he is with like the alternate smiling face instead. Next up we have Mystake, which actually had a previous version, but this previous version was horrible, it looked nothing like her. And this new version has just the perfect face print. However, because we got the face print, the figure sacrificed in a few other places, namely the torso. But honestly, the torso is not bad, it's still a gray sweater, it's just not the gray sweater she has in the show. So I think if you just have this minifigure, this is perfectly fine, this is a great Mystake. But if you have both, I think it looks best to combine them. Put the new face and hat on the original torso and legs, and I think this makes for a much better minifigure. The color in her torso is probably not 100% accurate, depending on the scene. Sometimes it looks more gray, sometimes it looks closer to this. I think if we had this design in gray, it would be absolutely perfect. But at least design-wise, this is a lot closer than the other one. The other one's a lot closer in terms of color, though. I've got her hat on here because the other hairpiece is not actually accurate to the show. The accurate hairpiece does exist, I think it was used in a Lego Encanto set, but I do not have that one, so I can't show you it here. But yeah, if you want to make an accurate Mystake with the hairpiece, that part is out there. You're just gonna have to buy it separately. This looks really good, though. It's so surreal that this is finally here. Next up we have Faith, and I have no criticisms of this minifigure in the slightest. It is a very, very well faithful recreation of the original minifigure, just with a new face print. However, while it's quite faithful, it's not 100% the same as the original. So if you have the original heavy metal minifigure, you can swap that torso onto here, and it's going to make a very small difference, but technically that original torso and legs is more accurate. So here's how the new face and hair look on the original torso and legs. Really not much of a difference. It's mostly the orange hips and gunmetal gray arms. Aside from that, the actual printing is nearly 1-to-1. There's a few small things changed, but it's super close. Here's how she looks with her new headpiece and the armor on, and with the hat on as well, though then her alternate face shows out the back. And this is a cool option to have, but the whole point of the Faith minifigure is to have the unmasked version. So personally, yeah, I'm gonna stick to the unmasked. Here's the new Maya minifigure, and honestly, there's no changes needed on this minifigure. It's actually quite accurate to how she appears in Hands of Time. However, the right minifigure that she's meant to fit alongside is based off of the flashbacks that we see, and in those flashbacks, she actually has a slightly different face design. She's got these cheekbones that were not present on either one of her minifigures. So if you wanted, you could try to find a better face print to fix that. I was looking around, and honestly, there's not great options. I found this one, which I believe is the Queen from Nexo Knights. And this maybe feels a little bit closer to the cheekbones Maya design that we see in the show. It also has an alternate face where she's screaming, which is cool to get like a fighting face for her. The eyebrows aren't perfect, and she has like a little beauty mark that she doesn't have in the show. However, I feel like that kind of works because the redesign of Nia has one, and Maya was designed before the redesign. So you could almost consider this like a redesign Maya that fits Nia better. I probably won't be keeping this change to my Maya minifigure, but hey, it is an option you have. Very similar thing with the Master of Lightning here, where I feel like she could have a better face print. However, on her, it's even less significant than Maya. I actually think this face is pretty accurate for her. I'm just not a fan of this face print. It's used all the time in LEGO City, and it has been for years, and she's not even the first Ninjago minifigure to use it. It was also used on Camille on the Ninjago City markets. So I just feel like using the same face across two characters in Ninjago is a little bit lame. And the Master of Lightning does have a very generic face design in the show, so if you have some LEGO City sets with some female characters, you probably have tons of other expressions to choose from. I quickly grabbed two from my collection. I think this one's fine. It captures some of her personality. She was very, like, bubbly in the few moments we saw her in the show. Or there's this one where the eyebrows are a little too thick when it comes to accuracy. But the expression I really like, because I think it works well for an elemental master, like someone who's actually fighting. It feels maybe a bit more emotive. And there's an alternate face too, where she's like sad or disappointed. She has quite a generic design in the show, so if that original face bothers you like it does me, look around your collection, see if you have anything else. These are just two ideas. And finally, I saved the best for last, Dr. Julien, my favorite minifigure in this entire wave. This is a character I've been campaigning for years. I've wanted him since he first appeared on the show in 2012. This is a childhood dream come true to finally have this minifigure. And he is pretty dang close to perfect. His face print is straight out of the show and he has a double-sided face as well. His lab coat's been modified a little bit to be like Legacy-ified, but it still absolutely feels like him. My only real critique of this minifigure is the legs, because he has no leg printing at all, so his lab coat just sort of cuts off. I don't think that's the end of the world, I still think he looks really good. However, there's a minifigure that you can bring in here that fixes him pretty much perfectly. This guy right here. This is one of the scientists from the LEGO Ninjago movie. He comes in like the Garmadon Volcano Lab set, and he's got dual-molded legs with lab coat printing in Dr. Julien's color, sand blue. So if we take those off that minifigure and place them on Dr. Julien, it is so incredibly close to making this minifigure perfect. The one remaining issue is this guy's wearing a tie-dye shirt that's a little oversized, so the printing goes down into his hips a little bit. So at the very top of the leg printing, you can see a little bit of the remnant of that tie-dye shirt. And if that wasn't there, this literally would be the perfect leg piece for Dr. Julien. But even with that, I still think it works pretty well, and it's better than just the unprinted legs. Number one, the lab coat lines up perfectly, which I was so impressed by. I was not expecting that at all. But yeah, it's a very clean transition from the torso into the legs. Of course, the sand blue matches the sand blue undershirt. And if you see that tie-dye shirt as like a very colorful belt, is it fully Dr. Julien? No, he probably wouldn't have that. But if you try to view it as a belt and not the bottom of the shirt, it sort of fixes things in my brain and makes it work. So at least me personally, this is how I'm going to display my Dr. Julien minifigure from now on. It's a huge improvement to the original, which I already loved, and again, is so close to being absolutely perfect. You do have a second option for lab coat too. There's another scientist from the LEGO Ninjago movie. This is the one in the minifigure series, so she's a bit easier to find. And the color of the pants here is less accurate to the show, but again, the lab coat does line up, so this is another option you have. Her shirt does also extend down onto the legs, however, it's just a black shirt, so that actually works a lot better as a belt. And now there's also a much more clear divide between the shirt and the pants. But in my opinion, the shade of the pants is just not Dr. Julien's color at all, so I am personally going to be sticking to the sand blue ones. But there we go, that is every single upgrade or improvement or alternate version I can think of with the January 2026 Ninjago Legacy minifigures. As I said at the beginning, yes, this video might be titled Fixing the Minifigures, but honestly the only minifigure that I think needed fixing was Jay. Everything else is like, hey, this is an option to display your minifigures if you want to do something different. Personally, changes I'll be keeping in my own collection. I definitely want to get a second Blacksmith Kai to permanently display like this. Jay, I'm definitely keeping the silver armor in at least one of my copies of that minifigure. Dr. Julien, of course, as I just mentioned, I think those legs improve the minifigure significantly. Young Woo, while I like the official version better, again, sort of like Blacksmith Kai, if I could get my hands on a second copy of that face print, I would actually like to have too. Because this version I think actually looks really good, but so does the official one, so I don't want to take the official one apart. Garmadon's a very similar case. I would love to get more copies of that face print to use on more copies of my Garmadons. Mystake I'll probably leave like this too, but honestly, most of the originals are good enough that I'm perfectly happy with them. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought of all this, of all these new versions that I made in this video. Which one was your favorite? Which one was your least favorite? Are you going to make any of these changes to your minifigures? And is there any other changes or customizations you guys would like to see that I didn't cover in this video? Either more changes to these minifigures or for the other minifigures I didn't cover. The only thing I wanted to do that I didn't was show more faces for the Master of Earth, just because I couldn't find a face that worked better than the one they chose in my collection. But yeah, the face print on that guy's not 100% accurate to the show, but I think what they chose made the most sense. But yeah, if you guys could think of any interesting pieces you'd like to see on these minifigures or any others, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts in the comments. But as for this video, I think that's about all I have to say. As I mentioned, if you want to see my full reviews of any of the sets the original minifigures came in, you can go check them out in the description below, or in the pinned comment. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it, subscribe to my channel if you're new. Thanks for watching everybody, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!